Okay, so before I get into the ranty portion of the video, I want you all to do me a favor. I want you all to try and remember the last time that you lost 3 games in a row. Okay? Just remember the last time. And then I want you to think back on if any of those 3 games were your fault. Now stop right there. Because if you have, then you're probably just a normal, everyday human being. But if you haven't, then I hate to tell you, that's ego. There's a certain air of arrogance to you thinking that in 3 games of ranked that you lost, that all 3 weren't your fault. I could maybe give you 1, and I'll possibly give you 2. Sometimes Blizzard just has shit matchmaking. But at least on the 3rd one, even if you went 26-1 and the rest of your team went 10-10, you still could have gone 30-0. You could have. If you were good enough to carry that game, there is a possibility that you could have won the game if you yourself did better, right? And you know, if it's 3 massive blowouts, even then, there are portions in the game because, you know, Overwatch is not just a one and done game. It's not just a 1 fight, 1 loss game. There are so many times where you could have failed to the point of where you get blown out 3 times in a row. You were at least the issue 1 of those 3 losses. And I feel like that's a great barometer to give people because just so many people love to blame their teammates. And it's pretty valid most of the time, in my opinion, because Blizzard does ruin games, right? Like I said, I'll give you grace for 2 games, but once you reach that 3rd loss in a row, it's your fault. And if you go beyond that, I really don't know. Like, Blizzard's matchmaking is not great, but it's not that bad. They literally will give you sometimes free wins after you have lost. So, no matter what, there's been a time in your life where you are the issue in ranked. Okay? And I'm bringing this up because just the ego of Overwatch players is getting out of hand. And I always like to tell you guys how I come to these rants, how I get to this point of where I need to yell at thousands of people about something that I hate. And this time, it's not just the community or Blizzard doing it, it was myself. Okay, so on an account, I am currently stuck Masters 2, and I've been in the range of Masters 2 and 1 for like 2 weeks at this point. And also what I kept telling myself, even though like I was winning most of my games and doing the best of my team, I kept thinking to myself, I am below this rank. And mind you, I'm really only GM, like low GM. I'm not above Masters, okay? But my ego was getting in the way so much so that I was actively ruining the games for myself just by thinking that I'm so much better. Not listening to what my teammates were saying and doing whatever. Like I'm Beastman Rage, whatever, Beastman Rage rages. Yeah, hilarious. But yeah, that's what I did. I was screaming at the controller saying like, it's not my fault, not my fault. And then eventually I just had to sit down and say, okay, now I really need to try here. I need to actually listen to what my teammates say. I'm obviously not above Masters 2, but the problem was, and actually real quick tangent, the ego problem with Masters and Diamond players is through the roof. I hate playing with these people sometimes, man. It is actually easier to play against GMs than it is to play against Diamond players. I mean it. Diamond players think that they know everything, but they just don't, while also being assholes about the game at the same time. I don't know, and also, like, just never being able to do anything. I have no idea why. I have no idea why, but Diamond players just have it all figured out, I guess. My bad. And GM players, at least they're doing what you expect of them, whereas Diamond players are just everywhere thinking that everything that they're doing is correct. I don't know. But, so yeah, eventually I figured it out and I started playing well and playing better, and eventually I'm climbing now, like I said. But still, it was a problem. And I realized it was my own ego. And I've also, like, kind of started to notice, you know, I'm just going off on tangents at this point, but specific players also have egos, if you really think about it. All the time, Mercies, Genjis, Dooms, Reinhardts, these are all people that just love to have egos, especially when mirroring each other. Or actually, most Overwatch players have an ego when mirroring at all. Like, if I'm doing well, and mind you, I'm a epic Wraith, or I'm a level 2, almost 50, Reaper, there will be people that if I'm doing well on Reaper, will switch to Reaper, and all what I can think to myself is, how dare you? Like, why? Why would you ever do that? I'm dominating this game on Reaper, and you couldn't even figure out how to carry on Tracer, and now you're going to carry on Reaper. Anyway, my point being is that it bothers me a little bit. It hurts my ego a little bit that they think that they can beat me. You know what I mean? And obviously, we all know how Mercies act when they see a worse Mercy in the lobby when they could be playing Mercy themselves. They'll all freak out at each other. Actually, a lot of supports do that with their characters. And then obviously there's the Genji players who think that they're the best Genji to grace the planet, and anyone else that says otherwise is completely wrong, and always Dooms. I mean, Dooms and Genjis literally have the most crossover ever. And then I said Rhines, and Rhines in the mirror. Rhines will never switch if there's a mirror, and if they do, then they're a pussy. And I'm going to fully admit that right now. If you're a Reinhardt and you're in the mirror, you cannot switch. Honor demands that you play Reinhardt. Pushes up glasses and types on Reddit. But anyway, that's just something I've been noticing while being stuck in Masters. I mean, this elo is hell, and I hate it, but also, you know, it was my fault that I was there, and also I'm just seeing the worst of these players. And you see them in quick play too, because you guys know I'm a quick play warrior. You see it all the time, especially when it comes to mirroring. People just love to mirror in quick play and love to have just an ego battle to the death, and then type GG after pretending like they weren't gonna fucking care if they lost or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, after you're going into multiple counters and they switched in halfway to the end, and then they type, you know, GG easy at the end. But whatever, neither here nor there. I went on such a bad tangent, but I think it got my point across. And well, my comments seem to prove it all of the time, right? Like, ever since I've been making my videos about the specific roles, like I made one about supports, made one about tanks, and made one about DPS, and even made one combined of DPS and supports, whatever. And people just are never the problem, right? They're always talking about the other roles or how their teammates were bad. Like I said, when I brought up the end of season Overwatch stuff, everyone was blaming the teammates and Blizzard and whatnot, and so was I, obviously, in the video. But you just realize that everyone has a bit of ego to them, and they kind of need to stop it, right? You need to stop having that ego. The only time that I think that ego is good in Overwatch is in those games where I was saying, like, you need to be the difference maker, right? By the time you are going to get your third loss, there's a time when you need that ego to go and win the game, right? You need to have an ego to go and make that push, to go and be the first person to dive, to set up the dive, to follow around your tank and heal them, whatever, or even just open up the voice chat and actually start making callouts. Sometimes you need that ego in order to win. That's the only way you're going to win, is if you actually take charge, or if you actually try and be that difference maker. So that is the time when having an ego is good. The problem is that people do this, right? And then they take it way too far. They take the ego aspect of it, you know, far beyond what they were supposed to do. They now start yelling at people, saying, you didn't listen to my call out, or why didn't you heal me there? And then they end up just defeating the purpose of being the difference maker, right? They end up being the problem. Like I said, I was when I was stuck in Masters for that little while. And obviously I became the problem. I was yelling at teammates. I was, you know, going to my wife and being like, oh my God, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. I just top fragged these 3 games in a row. How the hell didn't I do it? Well, you know, obviously I could have done better. But yeah, sometimes an ego is okay. Sometimes. But you know, that's just how it is. And also, I want to say that I did obviously have an ego beforehand. Like, you need some sort of an ego to go online and spew the nonsense that I do while playing console and being barely GM. I just, you know, or maybe it's delusion, not even ego. But I would like to know from you guys whether or not you've had a similar issue, whether or not you have figured out halfway through a losing streak that it was actually your fault, that you were the problem, that you needed to relax a little bit and just play the game. And also, have you ever had the moment where you realize, like, I need to be the difference maker here? If I'm not the difference maker here, we're going to lose. But yeah, just let me know, guys. All right, goodbye.